Hi, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and thank you so much for tuning into one of our talks today. We are a year-round talk series bringing you the best creative voices across film, television, and theater. And I'm so excited. Today, we're joined by the fantastic Terrence Terrell, who's currently starring in the CBS series Be Positive. And the first thing I was really interested in is the fact that you have a lot of personal experience with this in your life, and you've talked about your grandmother going through dialysis and having a lot of friends who have gone through this as well. And so I was really interested in what you felt that you were able to bring into this character and into the show from that personal understanding of what this experience is really like in the day to day.
You know what? I tried to come on without being a know-it-all because you feel like you already know so much. When we stepped on the stage, even seeing they have the exact same color dialysis chairs as my grandmother actually sat in 15 years ago. So I was like, whoa. So I knew like the language and everything. So what I felt like I wanted to bring to it was just educating myself on the importance of kidney disease and also bring awareness to the Black community because they make up almost 35% of people on dialysis. And just bring my authentic Southern charm. You know what I mean? I try to do everything. I've been very blessed to do projects that really can shine a mirror on real life. So yeah, that's why I brought to it.
Yeah. And obviously it's a show that's touching on something that is real life and is a really difficult thing for people to go through, and it's an everyday challenge. But what we do as humans is we find humor in the darkness. And I loved the way that you've described your grandmother going into dialysis and getting all dressed up, because if she's going to have to spend that many hours sitting in that chair every week. And so again, was just really fascinated by the way in which you really thought about the undertone of what your character is going through, but like really finding the right tone to bring the light and bring the joy into those moments as well, from the connectivity that he finds with these people that he wouldn't know otherwise.
It's so funny because when she used to get dressed, because years on end, she was fighting dialysis. Like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. But literally the doctor told her, like, you have to do it or you're going to die. So she went ahead and started to go, and it's a whole community. I didn't know. I'm like, oh, it's just the doctor's office, but it's an entire community that people don't speak of. And she would get dressed like hair and lipstick and furs and fox, of course, not real furs, but she was Diana Ross going into dialysis. And I'm like, lady, what are you doing? And she would always say, I have to make dialysis entertaining if I'm gonna sit here that long. And now I literally get to make dialysis entertaining. So I'm living through her steps and just being grateful to see somebody personally go through that, and then not even knowing that most of my high school classmates are actually on dialysis. One of the girls, Ivy, she was the girl who stood up for me in high school. Like, he's going to be somebody. You laughing at him, but he's going to be somebody. And sure enough, the week that the show premiered, she was on, I didn't know she was on dialysis for like 3 years. She got her kidney call that Thursday and she got a transplant that Friday. And so I called her, and I've been talking about her in the interviews, of course. And it's just so amazing. I had no idea she was on dialysis. So it was great to actually step into those shoes and actually hold the torch for the people who held the torch for me for so long, you know? So I'm just so grateful every day to get on that set and smile and wave, but know that it's dark, like you said, but it's real. It's real life. We're not sitting up here making, jumping on unicorns every 5 days, but we're like making real life and making it funny, but bringing human, but also educating people. So it's the best job in the world.
And your character is also someone who's been a professional athlete.
Yeah.
So the journey that this takes him on must be really fascinating, because his entire life has been built around his physicality, his body, his strength, his ability to do things. And suddenly, his energy is depleted. He's got to spend all this time just sitting in a chair in a room. So how did you take that aspect of the athleticism and what that would mean to him to have to go through this process with what his body has been to him up until this point, and think about it in terms of who he was as a character?
Well, Eli, I feel like, in the South where I grew up in Mississippi, so any small towns, football, basketball, track, those are the way, quote unquote, out of that world. That's the way that you can actually become somebody and do whatever using your physical body. So for him to be a superstar, Super Bowl winner, he always flashes that ring. So for him to go from somebody who uses his body to make a living to now sitting in that chair and being controlled, quote unquote, in the sense of being there for 8 hours or, 3 to 8 hours and getting his blood drawn out and still trying to find that humor with himself and still trying to have that. because that athlete mentality is a real thing. Like, you got to go, there's a strict regimen, and he's still going to the gym. He's still eating right. He's still trying to be that cool guy. But inside, we're going to see a lot of different things with Eli coming up, where he's going to be dealing with a lot of things, because, football players aren't the smartest people with their money. So now, we're going to start seeing a little bit more inside of his life of does he have money still? Did he invest well? The friends that he had at one point, all the cool drinking and going to the bars, is that really a thing anymore? Because he doesn't want to go and he can't drink anymore. He can't do any of that crazy stuff. So just being very, very careful, and even the positioning in the chairs, like making sure that I'm big, but I'm not snatching the stent around. And with athletes or anybody else, I'm very like talkative, expressive with my body, just making sure that it always stays inside, but and without doing too much as an athlete. So I think it's a good divide. It's a good divide, but he's big. So it's like, you can't help but know he's a football player. So.
Right. And he wants everybody to know it. That very first scene that we meet him. That first scene when Drew walks in, played by Thomas Middleditch, and he's just like, I'm Eli. And he just waits for the pause of recognition. Like, he's still kind of posturing. And I thought that was a really fascinating choice with the character. And even just the way that you sit there, the way that he kind of like holds himself, and he's like, yeah, I know who I am. You know who I am, even though he doesn't. So how did you kind of want to carry that through into a lot of the moments with him as a character, and how he really holds his identity as a pro athlete still?
The funny part about that scene, that was actually the audition scene. So when I read it, and I was like, and I saw it because, it's a math problem. You have to like look 1, 2, 3. And I saw it. I was like, he says his name 3 times. Why does he say his name 3 times? And I'm like, oh, Eli is that person that we are at home looking in the mirror like, you the best. Who's the best? You the best. So that's who he is. So even with that cadence with the Eli Russell, I did it in the audition. So when I got to the actual stage, and you're having Drew, played by Thomas, who's very like, he's a therapist. He's not hip. And so he's like, Eli Russell. And he's waiting for it, like, yo. And he's still sitting there like, okay. Like, how do you not know who I am? I'm Eli Russell. You see this big ring, at least look at the ring. You know what I mean? So it was really, really cool. And like I said, Eli is that person. All of us have that inside. The person that we always hide going out, that narcissist. So I get to play into that even more without getting in trouble for it. So yeah.
Given that was the scene that you auditioned with, what were some of the other details that you started to really uncover, even just auditioning with this character, that then you carried through to the performance once you were on set?
That Eli really hides behind that ring and that fame. He's not living in the now. To him, he's not even in dialysis. He's just hanging out with a couple of friends in his head. So knowing that he's hiding behind his ring, he's using his past to still validate who he is. So that to me already says that there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of vulnerability that we're going to see, and there's a lot of things uncovered as he's pushing down on a daily basis just to be cool. So I have a feeling he's going to probably be the one that's going to break down and cry very soon. So as they all do.
There's also a moment where they all make reference to, the fact that Drew is coming in and sitting in this dialysis chair. And obviously someone else was in that chair before until they got their transplant. So how much as a group did you all talk about and think about the different people that they would have met along the way? And, how long has he been in this chair? How long has he known everybody else in the room? How many other people have cycled through, and what it means to them when someone leaves? Because they're obviously really happy for them, but at the same time, it's not their moment to get a transplant.
Yeah, I feel like it's like when you go, to me, when we didn't really talk about it as a group, but at the same time, you feel it because when he comes in, Cheryl, who's the lady who left the chair, it's like she won the lottery, or she was the one at Vegas that hit that machine, and you could have sat, maybe, all of us are thinking, maybe it was a chair. Maybe that's the magical chair. Can I move closer? Maybe I can sit in that chair and I'll get the transplant net. So we really didn't have a conversation about it, but it was very well known. And to me, Eli's the one, he's the cool kid on the block. So even though it bothers him, he doesn't really show it. Samantha shows every piece of it, but Eli's like, cool, don't worry about it. I'll get somebody else. Or so maybe I'll get if I just send a tweet out to a fan, I'll probably get like 2 or 3 kidneys, but I got y'all. So there's always a glimpse of hope as well. So he's a very complex character to step into, because there's vulnerability, there's that ego, but then there's also a little bit of hope, and then there's also a little bit of fear. So it's all these emotions going together and still trying to look cool with a Super Bowl ring and a sweatsuit on. So it's a lot.
Well, there's also the moment where he talks about how his brother had said that he would be his transplant for him, but that he would need to lose 40 pounds for the operation, and he hasn't done anything about it in a year. So Eli's obviously completely given up hope on him. How did that start to give you inflections and details of his family relationships and some of his life outside of it? Because so far in the show, we've only seen him in the setting and in the dynamic of this dialysis room with this group.
Well, there's a lot coming up. I can't give away too much, but I feel like a lot of Eli's, he dealt with being let down. And, a lot of the superstars, we end up paying for everything for family. So he's buying houses, buying cars. And when it comes down to a kidney where you can share your spare, we only need one medically. So being let down by a brother just to lose 40 pounds. And he could have ran with him, worked out with him, whatever, to get him into that headspace. But even being let down by a close family member where I'm sure he provides for, it rocks his world. And we're going to also see where another character gets a kidney and then it gets rejected. And then we're going to also, and I didn't know this stuff. I didn't know that you can get a transplant. And we did a interview with Marco, the creator, and it's based off his real life. But we had a couple of people from Twitter sending questions in. And of course, I had no idea. This girl, she's 21 years old and she's on her 3rd kidney transplant. So the kidney, it actually has a warranty. Like you have to treat it a certain way, and sometimes your body can reject it. So it's a lot of letdown. So just imagine having to sit in that chair with just a mustard seed of hope every day, feeling like, get a call or somebody, maybe my brother would change his mind and go ahead and give me the kidney. Maybe he's going to lose the weight. But then even with the Drew and Gina situation, you never really know. You never know if it's going to work. You don't know if they're a match. You don't know if they're going to get cold feet the day before. And that comes up where teammates get cold feet and just leaves them high and dry. So it's a lot of, brushing it off and standing back up and walking in it.
Yeah. I also, there was someone who messaged you on social media and posted about how they had been, it was a subject matter that was very close to them. And so they weren't sure if they could watch the show because they didn't know if it would be making fun of the subject matter and be something that was difficult for them to watch. And I thought your response was really great. And off the back of that, it made me curious about the conversations that you and Marco had about finding the specific tone of the comedy within the show, because, it brings the comedy and it brings the light of these characters. It allows them to find the comedy and what they're going through, but at never any moment is it making fun of the situation in and of itself. So was that something where Marco had any conversations with you about what that comedic tone needed to be and feel like?
You know what, I remember when we talked, he was saying that, it's real. He wants to keep it real. It's not going to be upbeat all the time, but there is going to be real life in there. But at the same time, he was like, we can't keep going down. I think there's always a line of hope throughout the entire story. In comedy, like Chuck Lorre and Marco Pinette, when I tell you, when I see these scripts, to make this funny on a weekly basis without being disrespectful is an entire different level of genius. And today, one of the guest stars, she comes in on episode 10, she asked, could she take a picture of all of us because her aunt's husband is on dialysis, and they actually watch the show. They record it and watch the show as a community every week. And so people like it, and they know that we're not making fun. They know that we're educating people. And I get a lot of thank yous. Just thank you for educating people. Thank you for letting people know that they can share their spare. Thank you for letting them know that they only need one. Thank you for just opening the door for organ donation. So hopefully this show also gives that to it, not just comedy, but also awareness, And so it's really, really cool to make fun of what's going on. And, I think all of us need to do that. When you fall, sometimes we see somebody fall really hard. You always do that. Oh, but once you know they're okay, then you bust out laughing, right? Like, I'm so sorry. But you never laugh when they fall. You always make sure they're okay, and then you laugh. So I think, I think that's probably the mindset of the show. But even with the jokes and everything else, Marco coming in, I didn't really know. This is my first multicam, so I didn't want to step on toes. You want to make sure that you respect the process because these people are warriors in this multicam. Chuck Lorre, they're amazing. So the openness with the script, when I feel like, oh, I think Eli would say this, it's open. Okay, cool. Let's try that. Let's try it. So it's a lot of throwing darts at the wall, and we hit the bullseye every time. Every time. It's amazing.
With the fact that it is your first time doing a multicam show, what's the difference in terms of style of performance that you really had to find for yourself with the way that it works so differently on set?
It's exhausting. Because what multicam is an entire different level of performance to me because you're working Monday through Friday. So Monday, Tuesday, we rehearse. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we shoot. So now when you have a live audience, I haven't experienced that yet, but when you have a live audience, they're laughing at your joke. But now we don't have the live audience. So we have to make the joke and then hopefully some of the crew people laugh. But also, so you make the joke, you got to pause to make sure people laughing at the joke. And then you got to come right back at it with the same energy. So you can't make the joke, then go down. You got to make the joke, hold it here, and then keep going up. It's exhausting. It's like the Celine Dion of TV because you got to keep going. You got to hit one note and then go higher and then like, okay, cool. And then hit a whole nother note and then hold it out. So it's exhausting. It's a multicam like the I Love Lucy's. It's a formula, but it's genius. It's fun, but it's hard work. It's not as easy as we make it look. It's hard work. And scripts are being changed every minute, every single minute. And so you'll get something down like, cool, I'm gonna do this. Okay, cool. Those 5 lines we're not gonna do anymore. Can you do these 5 lines? Cool, you got it? Action. That's what it is. So it's exhausting. It's a lot of changes. You just gotta be quick with it. You gotta know who you are as a character, and you step in the shoes, be confident in it, and you just gotta go and trust your gut.
Well, to that point, with how much you just said, you have to really know who your character is, and the fact that scripts are flying at you, and suddenly the dynamic of a scene can completely change just
Yeah.
before you're shooting it. Did that kind of shift and change the way that you've done a lot of your character work and a lot of your character development before you're filming, knowing that you have to have such a strong foundation in that way for those last minute changes?
Yes. Usually with anything you do, of course, you want to study, you want to know lines, you want to know the reversals, you want to hit your pitch, you want to do all these things. With Eli, the first couple of weeks, I was, doing my thing, like knowing the words, but once these things start changing so quick and it's a different type of environment, I've realized that long as I do my development with Eli and who I am in it and in his shoes, that's all you can do because they're always going to change something. But as long as you stand in what you know about him, what you want to give off, you're always ready. So I don't prepare anymore. I'll look over the script on Sunday, or maybe when they send it to me on Friday, I'll read it. Okay, great. Leave it there on Sunday. Right before I go to bed, I'll read it again. Monday's a table read. Within maybe 10, 15 minutes after the table read, they may take a whole page out and put a whole new page in it. So long as you have that foundation of confidence, because it's a lot of confidence, you have to lead with that. I had to come home a couple of times. The first couple of weeks, like, you got this, because it really wears on, your ego and all these things that you built so far to get to this level. So you just really have to be grounded in your craft and love what you're doing because it's coming at you fast. And then you have to trust the process as well. And thank God I'm in this tribe with the Chuck Lorre and the Marco Pignette with Thomas and Gina and Samantha, all these amazing people, Daryl, David, and it's a village and we all trust each other. So even if I don't get the joke, David's right next to me like, Terrence, I think you should go up here. So it's like a community because even if we miss something, like, hey, so when you said this, do you think I should do this? Cool. We do that as a community. We come together like, that didn't work. Should I go up or down? And then Daryl was like, okay, go down. I'm gonna go up. So you can't prepare for this. You just got to do it.
With that dynamic of it being such a community, and so far, at least the scenes that we've seen with you have all been with that group dynamic. What's the difference for you in terms of having every single one of your scenes so far be with the same group of people, but to have that real ensemble feel where you are there to be able to pick each other up, but also at the same time, you have the interesting dynamic of how each character brings out different aspects of Eli?
I feel like it's amazing. And then we have, because nobody's seen us outside of those chairs. But the couple of episodes that's coming up, we did an episode where we're out of the chairs, and I think the writers were like, "Oh, they can be out of chairs now." Oh, they can walk and do this. They don't have to just sit down. They can actually walk and act. And so now there's more of us outside. You see us in different environments. So there's a lot more character development on the end where we're solo, but we come together like a unit. It's like a quartet. Is that the right language? But quartet is like four, right? Four people singing. So we know the chorus, we know what we're doing, but when it comes to your solo part, you have to take it to another level. But at the same time, you're now outshining anybody. You're staying in that group and you're supporting each other. So there's never a point where we're stepping on each other's toes because we know our lanes. And then also there's some things coming up where it'll be me and just Gina. And there's a whole different dynamic there. And then when Samantha says something to me, there's an entire different way I respond to her versus the way I respond to David, or the way I respond to Gideon. I'm trying to use their name, but their character's name. It's kind of weird, but yeah.
Acting. And this is also your first time as a series regular on a show as well, which firstly, congratulations on that. But I was interested in how that makes you think about your work differently, the way that you need to approach coming to work differently, the way that you hold yourself on set, because you're now part of that team dynamic that is responsible for setting what that tone is going to be for everybody else.
Thank you for saying that, because I've worked on some shows where if that number 1 and 2, it's a responsibility because it's a temperature, like they set the tone for the show. They're leading the ship. So imagine coming into an environment where you got somebody who's unhappy with their lives. Because a lot of people, they think they want this, but then when you get into it, you realize that it's not glitz and it's work. You do the work first. All the other stuff will come, but it's the work. And so if you have somebody who's miserable in that, it sets the entire environment. And I've worked on a couple of sets, so I won't say which ones, but I've worked on it. And it's just, of course, the editors have to work harder to, switch things and put things together. The ADs, it's just an entire, like a toxic relationship. So to be a series regular, I always saw what I didn't want to be. So when I come in the morning, I'm like, good morning, how y'all doing? Great to see y'all, because one, you have to always lead with gratitude. You know what I'm saying? When you know that they could have picked anybody else, but they picked you, that's an entire different responsibility. And now you're a series regular leading the ship. If they see you're tired, the co-stars come in and it's not a good environment, the show's going to go down. So it's always about being authentic and picking it up, being real. Of course, everybody don't have good days, but you're a series regular when people are dying to do what we're doing. So lead with gratitude, come in. I try to make sure I treat people the way I want to be treated, no matter what. So I know the stage lighting guy's name. I know everybody's name because it's all one unit. There's nobody's better than the next person, but we have to lead this together as a team. And Thomas and Annalie, amazing. You guys see them on screen, but when I tell you behind the scenes, even there was the first week, Thomas asking me, hey, if I do this change with the line, do you mind? Because, let me know if anything affects your stuff. People don't do that. People are like, I'm going to do this, you figure it out, because I'm the lead. But it's just a simple playground, and we're all doing our work. We all have a responsibility. And I think with 2020, it showed a lot of gratitude for just being able to work. So if you have a bad attitude coming to set, just stay at home, because it's not the place for it. This is a place to play and create and just love on each other in a time that people need a little laugh. So how dare you? So I wake up every morning happy, and I get to go to work. I get to play all day. I get to wear a big Super Bowl ring. So I'm always smiling and happy. There's no reason not to be happy during this time, being able to work on a sitcom show with Chuck, Lori, and Marco Pinette. Like, why would you be angry? So you have There's to, series regulars have responsibilities, and we have a responsibility, because you set the tone for the entire show, and you can feel it. Even though, if you're a co-star, you come in with a one-liner, you can feel the set. You can feel some of the people who've been abused or whatever. So with our show, it's a village. And I feel like Susan Greenberg, she's running the actual show. And I feel like she sets the tone. Like she's Mama Bear. She's going to make sure everybody's okay. So you're coming in there with an ego and being arrogant, you just feel stupid because it's like, what are you talking about? Everybody's nice and cool. Like, go get your own water. What?
On a separate tangent, you've also done a lot of commercial acting, particularly with Progressive.
Yeah.
And I'm so fascinated by it because it requires such a different stylistic approach as an actor with what you're being asked to bring to the table, because it's not narratively driven in the same way, but you still have to construct a character. You sometimes only have 30 seconds to convey who is this character, where do they come from, what's their intention, what do they want, and all the things that you would usually have multiple lines or multiple scenes to construct with a lot of different scene partners. And you're really kind of having to ride that out in such a short space of time. And it has to feel authentic or it's not going to connect with audiences. So stylistically, how does that force you to work in a very different way and have to think about character development totally differently to any other type of work that you do?
I'm sorry, you're so amazing. How do you do that? You are amazing. Okay, wow. That was a good question. And people think commercial acting, when I was in my first class, they were like, commercials are boring. Commercials aren't real acting. Commercials, being a motor, that's work. People, like, you have to come in, like you said, we got 15 to 20 seconds to make it make sense, to land the joke, to be in it. Then he talks an entire different way. Then he's half man, half motorcycle. So there's different contraptions that I'm strapped to. And now you'll be able to see him move a little bit more. So this is going to be very interesting. The new round comes out this February, so you'll see him doing way more. But it's not easy. It's a different type of tone. With the motor, I feel like even my tone goes down even more. It goes all the way down, and the contraptions actually help with that. But at the same time, he's very stoic. His confidence level is an entire different level because you're looking at him, but he's looking at you like, who's looking at who? You know what I mean? And it's just been a great gig. It's been very, very educational as well because of the commercial world. It moves fast. So being able to use those chops, the acting chops inside of it, and it's real acting. It's not just like you're shooting a commercial. You're actually acting and it's faster. So your energy has to be, there's no buildup. It has to start at 150. And that's what it is. So it's been a very cool ride, literally. Because he's a motorcycle, get it? Okay, cool.
No, I get it. And then, kind of like just finishing off on diving back to Be Positive, you were talking about that Facebook conversation that you and Marco Panette did, which was a great conversation in terms of not just talking about the show, but the wider conversation and a lot of what you really want to convey about what this whole process is like for people going through dialysis, waiting for transplants, the fact that we're going to hopefully see that as a journey throughout the series as well. So how have you been thinking about taking on this character and really creating a conversation that goes beyond the moments that you're on screen and how you want to convey that?
I feel like with Eli, he's opened my eyes up to so many different levels of just caring, bringing awareness and knowing that it's not make-believe, this is real life. And like I said, I think the biggest word that just keeps coming up is responsibility. So I have to do my homework. I have to know what's going on. I have to know what a stent is. I have to know what the percentage of everything is. So bringing that into everything, it's a responsibility at the end of the day. It's just a responsibility, always staying up to the statistics and knowing what's going on in the community, knowing what we want to convey as a tribe with this, and always putting your best foot forward, putting a smile on your face and knowing that you're playing this part, right? But there's real people who have to sit in this chair for 8 hours on end. When they come home, you don't see where, you have to time down. And when they come home, when they take those bandages off, sometimes my grandmother, if nobody was at home, she'll take her bandage off and blood will go everywhere. And they can literally pass like that. So it's a responsibility. So sitting in that chair is just a responsibility. That word keeps coming up. So I think just knowing that's a responsibility, it's a real community, and you're blessed to make it entertaining, and you're also blessed not to be in that spot. But at the same time, while you're in that spot, you have to be in that spot and know that these are real people's lives that you're portraying on the real screen. So it's almost like a biopic in a sense, because these are somebody is actually Eli sitting in a chair right now. You know, it may not be a Super Bowl football player, but they may be, the high school sweetheart or somebody's uncle, somebody's mom, somebody's aunt. So it's a huge responsibility, and I'm gonna continue to walk in that and continue to even dive deeper when it comes to the Black community, knowing about organ transplant, because in the South they say once they cut you, you're not no good. But knowing that you can spare a kidney and just approaching it with that, and with the dietary restrictions that they had in the South, not knowing that you have to eat healthy. Sometimes it's not heart disease. It's more dealing with the food that you're eating from history on, that's been passed down generation to generation. So it's a huge responsibility. I will continue walking in it. I will continue to be grateful for it. And I will continue to love on everybody out there who doesn't know. We have to educate. You can't be angry at somebody if they're not educated properly. So we just have to continue educating. So I feel like that's the best thing about the show. We're educating and making you laugh.
Well, you definitely do that. And it's been so enjoyable to watch your performance in the show. And I can't wait to see the rest of the
Oh, it's
episodes
going
coming
to
up,
be good.
especially with what you've teased.
It's
And
going to
thank
be
you so
really
much.
good.